Before I get started on my first post about perceived negative cards in tarot, I just want to apologise for the two posts that I uploaded yesterday, the videos 21 and 22 I think it was, because they were really such terrible quality. They were just horrible and pixelated and I couldn't really do anything about it. I'm keeping them up because the information in them was useful, so if anybody wanted to actually find out about chromotherapy and tarot, they could listen to it and make notes on it, but watching it would be a bit of a chore. So sorry about that, and I've started using photo booth now, which is a bit of a pain in the arse because I see that there are these two black bits either side of me, which is kind of annoying, but there's nothing I can do about it for now because my upload speed is crap suddenly for no reason. So, negative cards in tarot. I think that the whole Hammer horror thing that came around, the movies in which certain cards were drawn and everybody would go, "Oh my god, it means death," or whatever. That kind of fed massively into the idea for the contemporary querent that there's such a thing as a negative tarot card. My view has always been that there is no such thing as a wholly negative tarot card. There's also no such thing as a wholly positive tarot card, not even the Sun. They all have their cautionary elements, they all have their warnings to give, and I think that a lesson needs to be taken from every single card, which means that there needs to be a yin and yang to every card. There needs to be a light part and a shadow part. There has to be. You know, you can't just have a card that spells trouble and a card that means you'll live happily ever after. I don't think that tarot can be as simple as that. Since it's an illustration of the whole of human experience, I know for a fact it can't be as simple as that because neither is life. Having said that, there are a few cards that are deemed to be negative, and that querents might sometimes have a short, sharp intake of breath when they see them, and I would like to talk about a few of them now. The first and most obvious one, of course, is the devil. Obviously, there's a lot of Christian connotation with this, and it's quite a sort of foreboding card. There are two human beings that are both shackled by chains to this monstrous and demonic guy with bat wings. So obviously, immediately, even if you had no cultural association with the devil whatsoever, you might see this as a little bit of a negative card. But obviously, with all the cultural and religious baggage on top, makes it a particularly unpleasant card in the Western world. The issue with the devil, I think, personally, is I think that tarot readers should always see the devil as a little bit of an icebreaker. If the devil appears in a spread for a querent that is not very familiar with tarot and may not understand how the messages work and how the symbols fit together, I feel they may feel it's unpleasant when the devil shows up, so I get into the devil straight away. I always approach that card first and I kind of explain that it's kind of not got this horrible negative hocus pocus connotation to it. I actually relate the devil to the Jungian idea of the shadow aspect, those parts of ourselves that are restrained and are hidden, our failures, our shortcomings, our perceived flaws. And I see the devil as a chance for me to try and help the querent tap into their own shadow aspect and come to understand that they need to accept themselves as a whole before they can really appreciate the successes they've had and what they've achieved, and before they can really appreciate and utilise their qualities properly, they need to also see and embrace and accept their flaws. And I kind of think that's what the devil's all about. So, but I do use it as a bit of an icebreaker. If it comes up and I'm not sure the querent's going to be happy about it, I will get into that card immediately and start explaining it and kind of branch all the other cards out from there. The second most obvious one, of course, is death. Big one that comes up in the Hammer horrors and anything where a bunch of people go to a tarot reader and suddenly it means that somebody's going to die unpleasantly in some kind of horrific murder. Death is also a card, obviously, that gets a querent very unsettled. Obviously, if you know anything about tarot or you have even a remotely spiritual side, you will probably associate death with things like rebirth, the life cycle, transformation, chaotic, unpredictable transformation, the stuff of life, and how flexible we are with that, how much we yield towards it, that kind of thing. How we deal with the changes that come up, how we deal with what life throws at us. And in a lot of ways, death is an incredibly positive card that signifies the need for a great deal of strength and understanding. And, you know, it tells us that lessons are going to be learned and we're going to be able to grab hold of something, but only if we're strong enough to let go of what went before and that kind of thing. So you can really, really talk this card up and you can really, really use it to empower the querent if you go about it the right way and there's nothing negative about it whatsoever. The third and most obvious one is the Tower. The Tower, in my view, is about making sure that your foundations are strong making sure that you know who you are here in case everything round about starts to fall down. For me, the tower is about working out what's important to you, making sure that you don't invest too much in the material, because the material is, it's a component thing and decay is inherent within it. Whereas what you carry here is what's really going to count when everything else goes to shit. And I think that's what the tower is all about. I think it can be a card that promotes a great deal of strength and energy in a querent. Again, if it's addressed in the right way. It looks really, really scary, though, to be completely fair. I mean, it's a total scene of chaos and destruction. There's fire, people are falling to their deaths. It's very unpleasant, and that's the same in a lot of decks, not just the Rider-Waite. So again, it's all on how you address it, and if you do start to panic that you're not going to be able to think what to say when it comes up, always look at the bottom of the card first. These are the strong foundations. Even if the tower falls into a million little pieces, these foundations are going to stay strong. And the way I always approach the tower card is with a view to encouraging the querent to take hold of their foundations, understand where their foundations are, understand the difference between what's temporal and what's going to last for a little bit longer than 5 minutes. And that kind of gives them some direction to go with. The Hanged Man, I've noticed, a lot of people find to be an unpleasant card, but I think that's more because of its association with hanging, as in hanging from a noose, rather than obviously the way this guy is hanged, which, to be fair, was, I believe, in Italy a long, long time ago, the way that you executed traitors and so on. But it's also the way Odin was hanged from the tree, so there are those different associations as well. I wasn't planning on going into too much mythopoetic crap with this post, but I appear to be going down that road, so I'll just drag it back to the point. The Hanged Man, I think, because of the title, promotes some unpleasant feelings. It is a card of waiting, gestation, impatience, self-sacrifice to an extent, standstill, that feeling that nothing's really happening. I think it also promotes deep contemplation and the idea that you need to stand still for a little while sometimes before you can select the correct direction forwards. So again, it's all about how you approach it and how you handle it, but you will find sometimes that a querent feels a little bit of an unpleasant sensation when the Hanged Man shows up. But I think that's more to do with the title than what it actually signifies. Although, of course, this guy is not going anywhere and he looks to be in quite an uncomfortable position. But of course, that's more metaphorical than anything else. It's just about the fact that life sometimes puts us in an uncomfortable place and we need to deal with it until we can make the move forwards. The first card that I've selected for this first video about negative cards in tarot is another one that comes up a lot in Hammer Horrors, and I've seen it in a few films myself, and when it comes up it kind of promotes horror in the people that are having the reading, and it's all very scary and spooky and horrible. The Ten of Swords, because it just looks like a full-on murder, a horrible, premeditated, bloody, gang-related murder. It's a deeply unpleasant-looking card, clearly, and when it comes up in a reading for a querent that's not very experienced and doesn't have much knowledge of tarot and the fact that the illustrations can sometimes look a bit sickening and gut-wrenching, obviously it does promote a little bit of unnervingness in me. It's like, oh God, well, where do I start there? But of course, if you know anything about tarot, the Ten of Swords is all about the fact that a butterfly must emerge from its chrysalis through great pain and endurance, but then, once it's able to move forward into its new life, it does. I mean, it's another card about standstill, really, and it's another card about being unable to move and unable to progress forward because of the situation you're in. The circumstances are planting you to the ground and there's nothing you can do about it at this time. But it is a card of it promises major transformation if we are prepared to go through the suffering that is now. It promises a new day, and that's what's so great about it. But yeah, it can look really horrifying and it can give off this feeling of total doom. So, I mean, they are the cards that spring to mind most vividly when I think about negative cards. And as I said, I don't think there's any such thing as a negative card. It's all about how you address it and the context you place it in. And I think that a lot of these cards that are perceived to be negative can have the most distinct value overall in the spread if we address them in the right way, because they're really, really punchy and they get the attention of the querent, which is fantastic. And from there, you can say, this card is, the most meaningful card, the one that's going to entail the most forward motion for you and the one that's going to make you question the status quo to the biggest extent. So the negative cards are very useful, but they need to be treated with a certain amount of respect, and you need to comfort the querent through them and give the querent enough light to go with that perceived darkness.